little bit of a different location, huh? All right, good afternoon, everyone. Really exciting day. I am thrilled to announce Todd Monken as our new head coach. And before inviting Todd up to speak, I actually wanted to give a little bit of context and background of what led us to this decision. Coming out of 2025, the first thing we wanted to do is say, okay, like where are we from a team standpoint? Where are we from a roster standpoint? And we looked at it and we said, hey, we're coming out of 2025. We have the 8th youngest defense in terms of experience, a group that's very complete at all 3 levels and that we feel really good about. On the offensive side of the ball, we looked and we felt like we had a number of young, pillar cornerstone pieces, but we envision a world where that side of the ball is going to have pretty significant turnover over the next several months. And then from a resource standpoint, we looked at the team and said we're flush with draft resources entering this offseason, as well as the appropriate amount of flexibility from a financial perspective. So as we looked at everything and we thought about what we needed from our head coach, particularly in this phase, the first thing we actually looked at is we wanted someone who could lead, develop, and grow a young team. Because quite frankly, we're probably going to be, if not the youngest, one of the youngest teams in football in 2026. The second thing that we wanted, certainly in the short term, was a coach, didn't matter the background, that had a very strong and adaptable offensive plan, given the amount of turnover we're going to have on that side of the ball, both in terms of personnel, scheme, you name it. In addition to that very specific problem, we were looking at individuals that had 4 key attributes. The first is something that we categorize as global intelligence. So that's not just cognitive ability or IQ, that's EQ and football acumen as well. The second is something that we term CEO leadership. So that's someone who has the ability to function at what we would call 30,000 feet, as well as the tactical level at ground level. The third, we wanted someone who had a demonstrated track record of innovation where they've been. And then the fourth, we wanted someone who had the characteristics of collaboration, given the head coaching position touches so many different areas in football operations in the modern day game. So what we did to assess, all of those characteristics with many of the fine coaches we met with, we looked at their performance track record, where they've been throughout all their career, how their units have done. We did a number of reference calls throughout people who had been in direct working relationship with the candidates throughout all stops of their career. We did testing, we did work samples, and we also did the interview. And we combined all of that information to make a good decision about who would serve us best, who would serve the organization best with the problem that we're trying to attack with where our team is currently. And when we did that, Todd stood head and shoulders above the rest. Todd's like really, really, really unique. If you look at his history, his career history, this is a coach who has had high-level, innovative, adaptable offenses at both the pro and college level. Doesn't matter the personnel, didn't matter the quarterbacks, didn't matter what he inherited. He always found a way to have high-level and productive units. It became very apparent in everybody that we talked to about Todd how strong he was working and developing with young players. I think that's one of the beauties of Todd's experience is he does have pro and college experience as a coach, and that transfers in terms of how he leads and grows young players. The third, the mentors that he's worked for, most recently Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh, arguably the best in the business in pro and college, and the lessons that Todd has learned and applied from those coaches has been outstanding. And then the last thing is he understands the job. I mean, the work that he did at Southern Miss, inheriting a program at its historical nadir, turning it around with few resources, shows he has like the leadership, the gumption, and the resourcefulness to do this job at any level. So for us, we felt like he fit us like a glove. And we are so excited to have him and his family in Cleveland. I guess I should say back to Cleveland, Todd. But we're really stoked to have him. And so without further ado, Todd Monken.
Wow, man, am I excited to lead this flagship, franchise, NFL franchise. I mean, it's been a long time coming. Really has been a long journey, and there's a lot of people as we get down the road here that I'm going to have to thank, but I'm jacked. I mean, I'm excited to be with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it really, it's hard to even put into words. First off, I want to thank Dee and Jimmy, Whitney and JW for entrusting me in this opportunity to help build a winning team with the NFL's most passionate and dedicated fan base, including the Dog Pound. Secondly, I want to thank Andrew. Pointed that way, but you're right there. I want to thank Andrew Berry. Crazy enough, in 2019, when I interviewed here, my contact was Andrew, and actually was the first gentleman that I met with when I came in the building. And I could tell right away that our alignment and his clear vision for how you build a roster and how you develop players, we were aligned. And I look forward to being connected at the hip and building this roster to a championship level, consistent championship level. He mentioned the last few years, getting an opportunity to work with Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh, two of the elites in the game. When you talk about getting a doctorate in coaching, wow. I owe a lot to them. They entrusted me to elevate the offenses at both places, which is a credit to the staff we had and the players we had, because you can't do it alone. You absolutely cannot do this alone. It takes an army, and I owe a lot of gratitude to them. The one thing I learned being with both of them, I always thought I understood what it meant to confront anything that gets in the way of winning football. And what's interesting is they get to the same point, they just do it completely differently. But it's an art, because ultimately, just like I would have with my son, just like our children, you're going to confront anything that gets in the way of helping them become the best version of them. And that's your job with something that you love. And that's something I've never taken for granted with any job I've ever had, is fighting to confront anything that gets in the way of winning football. And I owe a lot to Coach Harbaugh. He hired me out of Georgia, took a shot on a college coordinator, trying to elevate Lamar in the offense. And I learned a ton. He is elite at messaging with a team, especially with an NFL team, and how you deal with players and how you confront anything that gets in the way of winning without being confrontational. To me, that's an art. That's an art. Thank you, Coach. And then the last thing, shit. Told myself I wasn't going to cry, for God's sakes. I want to thank my mom and dad, no longer with us, my brothers, Tony and Ted. College roommates, drove up here to be here today. My father-in-law, Chuck. My son, Travis, proud of the man you've become, and his fiancée, Hannah. And my wife, Terry, been together 40 years, been married 34. Of course, she would say that's probably 6, because you're actually married to the game. So, but it's been an unbelievable journey. Thank you. I love you. Before I take any questions, I just want to. There's something that I've kind of always lived by, as a position coach, as a coordinator, and I will as a head coach. And you know, Jim and Dee and Jimmy, they cut a check with my name on it. And you know what they expect? A frickin' kick-ass football team. That's what they expect. And you know what they want? They want to become a winning franchise that our fan base in our region is proud of. And that's all they've been about, is how you build a winning franchise that consistently competes for championships. And you know what? My job is to prove it every single day, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, let's go with some questions.
For questions, why don't we raise our hands and introduce yourself, even though you may already know Todd. Reintroduce yourself to him. Mary Kay?
Hi, Todd. Welcome back. Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland.com, Cleveland Plain Dealer. Well, I guess I'll start right off the bat with the question probably everybody wants to know. Will you head into this offseason with Shedeur Sanders as your QB1? And if not, what is your approach to the whole quarterback situation as you move into your new job?
Well, I think like any position on the team, that's still to be determined. Am I excited about Shedeur? Am I excited about all the quarterbacks in the room? Am I excited to coach this football team? Absolutely. I can't wait for them to get back and for us to get started.
Joe?
Joe Reedy, Associated Press. Todd, you mentioned in a Harbaugh Coaching Academy video your 2019 stint here. There was a lot of drama that the coaching staff couldn't control. Now that you're the head coach and learning from Kirby and Harbaugh, how do you manage that so that there isn't that drama?
Well, first off, I learned a lot in that 2019 season. I think you learn a lot. In fact, you learn a heck of a lot more when things aren't going well than when it is going well. And I learned a lot of things that I would have done different, and I think collectively would have done different. And I've seen it from a different angle, different point of view. But I'm ready to move forward with this team, the 2026 team.
Chris?
Hey Todd, Chris Easterling, Akron Beacon Journal. Just want to ask you, as a former quarterback, what is it you're specifically looking for in a quarterback? What is that trait? What are the traits that you feel like are critical for a successful quarterback, regardless of level?
Well, I'm just going to start with personality traits. I mean, when you talk about who's going to lead this team, who has the it factor, who has those characteristics that the team wants to follow and believes in them because the ball's in their hand every down. This game's going to come down to 2-minute situations, 4-minute situations where you've got to be able to execute at a high level. And we're just talking about some of the characteristics that you're looking for, let alone some of the physical traits that we'll get a chance to talk about later.
Let's go Scott, Dan, and then Jimmy.
Hey Todd, Scott Petrick from the Chronicle Telegram. You said it was a long time coming. When did you first start to think about being an NFL head coach? And did you feel you'd come close before? And then what does it feel like finally now?
Well, first off, I played at Knox College, and my dad were high school coaches, and my uncles were high school coaches, so that was just a dream. But I've been part of a team since I've been 5 years old, the Purple Pounders of Wheaton, Illinois, and it's the coolest thing ever to be part of a team. Let's just put it that way, okay? All I ever wanted to do was be part of a team and coach football. That's all. I mean, other than my mom making an Evel Knievel outfit or an astronaut, I was a football player every Halloween. That's all I ever dressed up as. You name it, that's what I dressed up as. When I was a kid, everybody else was getting trains, they were getting Army men, I was getting football games. My dad, every single, the little vibrating football game or talking football or rubber band football, every single game I ever got was about football. So all I ever want to do is coach and be part of a team. To me, it's not until you get into the NFL that you ever process like the opportunity could potentially be there to be a head coach in the NFL. Obviously, you have to probably reach the coordinator level to where that becomes a possibility. And there have been times before where I've been close. And I believe God put you at the right place at the right time. And that is now.
Dan?
Dan Lobby, Cleveland.com. This kind of goes with Scott's question. Obviously, you've been saying it's a long time coming. Did you at any point think something like this wouldn't happen for you? And does that, I guess, does that make this opportunity more meaningful for you?
For sure. I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I mean, let's be real honest here. Although I'll say this, that the version you're getting of me now is a hell of a lot better than it would have been 15, 20 years ago. So I'll at least say that, okay? But you get to the point where this is God's plan, which is fine. To be an offensive coordinator in the NFL or even coach in the NFL, I don't think people really realize there's 32 NFL teams. There's approximately 68, I don't even know how many more there are, Power 4 jobs. So whatever job we have, be it in the NFL or a Power 4 school, there's only 100 of you in the whole world. That's all there is. Within a 30-mile radius, there might be 100 doctors, 100 attorneys. You talk about a small group, talking about an elite group of men. So sure, there's a time where you think that's not going to happen. But very appreciative for the jobs that I've had and the players that I've been around and the coaches that have helped me get to where I'm at, because you absolutely cannot do it alone.
Let's go Jimmy, then we're gonna go Ashley, then we're gonna go Terry.
Jimmy Watkins, Cleveland.com. Todd, you're known as a straight shooter. That's what they say about you. How do you set that culture of accountability in a way that doesn't turn players off, so to speak?
Great question. Like I said before, I think you have to hold the players accountable for what they say their dreams and aspirations are. And you have to find out what really do you want individually with your career, and then what do you want collectively as a team. And all you're doing is holding them to what their goals and aspirations are, like people did for me. I am who I am because my parents did that for me. They didn't do that to me. They did that for me. And that's the way I go about it, is I think everybody likes honesty till they don't like what's said to them honestly. And I'm the same way. I'm no different. I like being stroked in a good way. I'm no different. I don't like the other side of it. But that's how I've gotten a lot better. And the people that love you the most, they're going to be honest with you. But all it is finding out what are your dreams and aspirations, and then let's fight like hell to achieve them.
Ashley Bastock, Cleveland.com. Just wondering, being in the division, like what your impression as a coordinator was of this defense, and if you've had a chance to talk to Jim or anything yet.
Give me that again, the last part.
If you've had a chance to talk to Jim Schwartz or
I
anything.
have. Okay, so with that, I've had a chance to talk with Jim. But it's been a bitch, I apologize, to go against this defense 6 times over the last 3 years. Schematically, and more importantly, the players. Because ultimately, it's a player's game. That's what it is. It's our job as coaches to develop systems that allow your players to play fast. People talk about time speed. It's really not about time speed. It's about how they play on the field. And that's developing schemes, in my opinion, or systems, as Coach Harbaugh used to call it, with elegant simplicity, where they can function at a high level and play fast. And that's what you saw all the time with the guys that are here and the players that we have. But at the end of the day, I say this all the time, from an offense or defensive perspective, it starts with having elite players and then having an elite coaching staff with you. And then you can call the game freely because of that, because of the talent you have, and then because of the players, with the coaches that help it come to life. That's what makes a coordinator elite. It's not one individual person. And when we get ready for the Browns, when we used to get ready for the Browns, it'll be more fun and not have to worry about chipping 95 every down and distance, I can tell you that.
Terry, then Tony, then Mary Kay.
Terry Pluto, Point Dewar, Cleveland.com. 2 things, what you mentioned about the defense there. I'm just curious, where do you stand with Schwartz? Is he coming back, or what do you know so far?
Well, first of all, I think Jim is an outstanding defensive coordinator. I think we all would agree with that. But I think it's a little inappropriate for me to comment about that at this time.
And secondly, when you looked at the Browns from the outside, you just mentioned the defense, but just in general, you've been through some situations where it's been big turnarounds. I know Southern Miss, I think you were 0-12 or whatever the first year, and that. What does it take to get, especially in the NFL, to get a turnaround situation going?
Perseverance, because it's hard. Winning's hard. It is hard, but the reward is unbelievable. That's what was fun about the thoughts of being the head coach here. If you like a challenge, let's go. Let's get this to where We're the standard, and the time is now. The timing is now. It's hard, it's perseverance, mental toughness, surrounding yourself with the right people, staffing, and then player-wise, that want to run into that smoke. Because not everybody wants to run in that smoke. Not everybody wants to look at it like it's 4th and 1 every day. And it is, it's 4th and 1 every day.
Nate, then Mary Kay.
Hey, Todd. Nate Aldrich, Akron Beacon Journal. Clearly, this means so much to you. So when you were at Georgia, you win the national championships back-to-back. You come back in the NFL. Did you come back to the league with the goal to become a head coach? Was that in your thinking?
100%. I called around to coaches in the NFL. I wanted to hear what it was like to be a head coach in the NFL. Because I tried to get a hold of Cliff Kingsbury and I couldn't. He was in like Tahiti or something. So that one, thank God I didn't get him because I might not have left Georgia. I got a hold of 3 or 4 other coaches, Kevin being one of them. And I asked him, do you enjoy being a head coach in the NFL? Do you enjoy everything that comes with it? It's not easy. It isn't. And to a man, all of them said they loved it, be it Matt LaFleur, be it Kevin Stefanski, and others that I reached out to, because it was the only reason for me to leave Georgia. Well, why else would I leave Georgia? We're winning, going to have good players, the culture's already set. So that was one part of it. The other part was the challenge of where we could take the team out east offense and how we could elevate Lamar Jackson. And like I said, I owe a lot to the players that were there and the coaching staff that we put together to help us do that. But ultimately, that was my goal, was to come back, to put yourself in a position to one day sit in this chair, be one of the 32.
Mary Kay, then Tony, then Daniel.
Yeah, Todd, on the day that Jim Schwartz supposedly left the building and said he wasn't coming back, Myles Garrett had a reaction to that on Instagram where he showed, someone hanging their head. Denzel Ward has said, I really want Jim Schwartz back here. So my question to you is, I know you can't go into detail about your convo with Jim, but what can you say to these players, or how confident are you that these players are going to like the direction that you're going to be able to go on defense, and will you be able to maintain the incredibly high standards of the defense even if Jim doesn't come back?
Well, first off, my anticipation is we're not going to change the system. Very difficult to go against. I'm not planning on changing the system. We're built for the system that they're in currently. And I'm not going to get into staffing, because that's not at this time to get into that. But they can be rest assured that we're going to keep the same system. We're still going to let them attack. We're still going to let them play free. I can't see any other way. They're a big reason why I took this job. The defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz, but as I would hope he has for me. But I took it because of the players that are here, the ownership, Andrew Berry, and the ability to build this roster from the ground up on the offensive side. So, and I said this to the other guys. I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm going to say it. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. And when I was sliding a protection to the outside backers or Grant Delpit that were blitzing off the edge, I was sliding the protection of the players. And when I was worried about throwing to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell to the left, that's who I was worried about throwing at.
Tony?
Todd, Tony Grossi, ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back. We're still here. It's common knowledge now that Baltimore wanted to draft Shedeur. How much did you contribute to that decision at the time with Baltimore? Did you do any personal scouting of him, and what were your thoughts back then?
I think it'd be unfair for me to comment on another organization's process. I think that would just be unfair for me to go in depth of where we were at in the draft. Obviously, we had an affection, like a lot of teams, of Shedeur's skill set and what we thought he could become. but I really wouldn't want to go in depth of another team's process.
Daniel?
Hey Todd, Daniel Yafusi, ESPN. A lot has been made about, the flexibility of your scheme and bending it to the talents of your players. But, from a macro view, when people envision a Cleveland Browns offense under Todd Monken, what do you want them to see?
Well, that's a question I get asked all the time. Like, what system do you run? What is that? And the way I'll try to phrase it is to score any way possible. I don't care what it takes to score. It's about scoring points. I would hate to put some sort of any type of connotation as to what system that we are, other than playing to our players' strengths. I think one of the things that our staff, including myself, have been able to do is take advantage of what a player can do and not what they can't do. Every player in the NFL is elite. And they all have a trait, at least one trait, that allows them to, I don't want to say this, allows them to function, play at a high level. You just got to find what that is and not try to put a square peg in a round hole, taking advantage of what they do. And I think that's what we've been able to do consistently.
Cool.
Hey Todd, Justin Cooper, ESPN Cleveland. Hey, after being here in 2019 and the well-documented struggles after the last 2 years of this organization, what makes you confident that you're the guy that could lead this team and turn this franchise around?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because in the interview, there was a question that came up about strength as a head coach. And the other was where are your gaps as a coach, where you need help, where you can use people to fill in those gaps. And the other was, how would you envision yourself being unsuccessful? That's not even in my vocabulary. It just isn't.
Scott?
Todd, I got two quick ones for you. Are you going to call the plays?
Yes.
And then you mentioned 95 a couple of times. How well did you know Miles in the year you were here, and how have you seen him evolve as a player since then?
Well, probably when I was here for that short period, I would say that I didn't know Miles very well, other than I loved his personality. I loved his charisma. I mean, always a smile on his face. At that time, I thought, holy cow, this guy runs like a wideout. This guy looks like a skilled player. I mean, this guy is, elite. And he's always had it in him, but you can just see the last few years, his evolution in terms of blocking schemes, how teams try to prevent him from getting to the quarterback, which opens up opportunities for others. I think his awareness of what teams are trying to do, I think they've done a great job of moving him around, because that's important. That definitely gets into a coordinator's head in game planning of where he's located. You can see it with every team that plays against Miles.
Let's go with Spencer, then Sable, then Kane.
Spencer German, Browns Roundtable and Locked On Browns. I saw there was a clip that you had of talking about coaching Lamar and how, you even felt like there were some things that you could have done better working with him. So I guess I just ask, what did you learn from coaching Lamar for the 3 years you were there? And what were some of the biggest challenges and things that you kind of bring with you now to this job?
Well, first off, I think I didn't get to where I'm at as a human being or a coach without owning and then fighting like hell to fixing. And I think that's important in a relationship. I think that's important in life. There's a certain amount of, you had a bar graph here, follow me, of that 10%, 15% bitching, complaining, self-preservation mode that we can all get in when things go bad or things are tough, which that's life. That's relationships, that's coaching. But the other 85 to 90% is owning your mistakes because we're human and then fighting like hell to fix them. And that's what I've been about. The moment you get, excuse me, you're about to go. The moment that graph elevates and the other one shrinks, you're not in the place you want to be at. First of all, Lamar and my relationship was awesome. We get along great. We didn't have the success last year for a number of reasons, and it doesn't matter. Fact. You know, he was banged up. I would have loved to have seen it had he been healthy the whole year, but he was not. Doesn't matter. We didn't at times didn't give ourselves the best chance to be successful. And you got to own that. That's part of what we do.
Sable.
Todd, John Sable, Fox 8 here in Cleveland. I covered you for a few years there in Tampa when you were with the Buccaneers. You mentioned how you've grown since your stay here in 2019. How have you changed as a coach in your offensive philosophy since your last one of your first spots there in the NFL in Tampa when you had to develop a Jameis Winston and a team that was young and was trying to take that next step then?
I would say what's changed dramatically, and I'm going to talk a little bit philosophically more than I will about the team itself. What's really changed the last few years is situational football, the analytics that have changed. Conversion downs, the way you approach down and distance in the game, when you're going to take shots, when you know it's 4-down territory. More and more teams are going for it on 4th down. It's conversion downs, not just 3rd downs. I get a big kick out of defensive personnel when it's 4th and 2 and they stop them and they put their fist up like it's 4th down. No, we're not punting. Like teams don't punt anymore. Like you didn't really get them stopped yet. And I'm not making fun of that or making light of that. That's just how the game has changed in terms of your situational awareness of where you're putting yourself in position to keep the football and maximize your opportunity to score points. That's what's changed the most in the game is the analytical part of what wins, what drives winning. And that's just not down and distance driven, that's tactical driven. Across the board, concepts, players, matchups, all of that. That's changed dramatically over the years. And that's one thing that getting back in the NFL is when understanding that the critical plays in a game that changed the game. When we ran that Mark Andrews fake sneak around the end here this year, that was something we'd oiled up for 3 weeks. That was a play off a play. That was Coach Harbaugh's idea. I don't care whose idea it is, where it comes from. If it helps us win, that's what's most important. But it wasn't just a fly by your seat of the pants, let's just see if it works this way. No, it came up in that situation at a critical time. And that's the difference when you're looking for margins that help you win close games, which is what the NFL is all about.
Let's go Cam, then Jeff, then Joe. To close it out, Joe.
Todd, Cameron Justice, News 5 Cleveland. You talked about it a little bit, your approach in player development, but as that's an attribute that's been something that has been like top of mind for this hire and for you, what makes your approach to player development so unique and different, not just maybe in the young players and rookies that are going to be coming in, but the guys on the fringe, guys that are in that practice squad role looking to move up, and how do you approach that with depth as well?
Well, I think first off, as coaches, we could never forget that we have a job for our players, ever. That's why we have a job. And we're in the development business. I know that's just the start of it. I'm kind of repeating what you said. Because no one has a ready-made roster. You only have so many picks. That's what you have. So it starts with the top that believes in that, then the head coach, then down to the assistant coaches that we're going to coach everybody. At some point, they're all going to play for us. At some point, that's going to come up. And the best way to build their confidence is to spend time with them. That's the biggest thing. and to develop every aspect of their game, that's in the classroom and on the field. And everybody has a hand in this. Everybody from sports science to our coaching staff to what we've seen at the beginning in terms of their skill set and how that fits with what we want to do.
Jeff Fidel, News Herald. Todd, you were asked about the quarterbacks at the very beginning. How would you assess the current receivers and offensive line?
Well, it's kind of a work in progress. It's kind of hard right now because right now we're spending the majority of our time on building an elite staff. I mean, that's really what we're doing right now. There'll be time for me to really get a chance to assess the receiver room. Most of it's been from afar, and same with the offensive line, and how we're going to construct the roster moving forward, especially offensively.
Joe, to close.
Todd, two to close it out. Just what's your timeline as far as hoping to complete a coaching staff?
I don't control that. I mean, we're going to vet as many candidates as we can to get it right. When I was a head coach at Southern Miss, we lost a coach, and Pete Golding, who's now the head coach at Ole Miss, he was our 8th safety interview. Our 8th. Our D coordinator was absolutely livid of why it took so long. We didn't get the right hire. We hadn't found it yet. I think just like they all vetted for the head coaching position, don't get worn out. Make sure you get the right people at the start. And that's what we're going to do. So there is no timeline to get it right.
Just, you've been in the division a long time. What do you think it's going to be like competing against Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati this year? Baltimore and Pittsburgh, obviously, with new staffs. You were involved with plenty of shootouts with Cincinnati when you were with the Ravens.
I can't wait. I can't wait.